Well, hello there. Do you know where you are? That's right. You've stepped into Half Moon Hallow. And do you know what time it is? It's Half Moon Hallow night, where it's forever dusk, and nightmares tuck you in. Darkness is a state of mind, and spookiness lingers like an aura. Beneath the pale silver glow of the half moon, spirits and shadows stir, waiting, watching. Darkness spreads, and with it, an ancient hunger long forgotten, a thirst for the macabre that makes the civilized shudder. Wait, what's that? Do you hear them? The whispers are growing louder now, nearly screaming. We're not alone. From the shadows and through the ethereal fog, they tell dark tales, tales of blood, tales of horror. Do you dare listen? Good. Thank you for joining us. And always remember, just because you don't see them doesn't mean they aren't there. Blood Moon, Dark Awakening, written by Tony Capobianco. The girl in the woods looked like she had chosen her place. That was the first wrong thing Special Agent Conno Castabello noticed. Victims don't choose, the world chooses for them, and it chooses violently. But this clearing, only a shoulder-wide pocket in the pines, wet needles dark with last night's rain, had a stillness that made the scene feel arranged. The drizzle tapped the leaves as if to wake them. A blue bottle circled once and left, insulted. Her hands had been folded on her stomach. There was a strand of hair plastered across her cheek, the way a mother might have tucked it back, if she had arrived in time to do anything at all. There was no blood, not on the moss, not in the ovals her heels had pressed, not under the nails where last moments write their arguments. 2 clean wounds rode the throat, precise, paired, cruel, set with the certainty of an old habit. The medic said animal and took it back. Wild things didn't set the dead down like this. 13, Castabello said, barely above breath. His voice sounded tired inside the pines. He closed the leather notebook he kept in his coat and felt the ghost of the pencil through the cover. 13 red crosses walking south across a map. Junction Ridge, Poughkeepsie, Scranton's outskirts, a pair of towns the interstate forgot. 3 nights on a roadside in Virginia where the fog swallowed the shoulders whole, and now into the upcountry. Foothills and low creeks, red dirt clinging to whatever you put into it. The victims were not the same kind of person. They were the same kind of result. Drained, emptied, left in places where wind could talk. No prints, no scuffle, no swab that meant anything to a lab. And a name threading through statements and sightings. Adam Raines. A landlord remembered him because tenants in old houses have steps that become memory. A clerk remembered him because he bought coffee at hours that made someone wonder where he was going. A neighbour remembered him because she once heard him speaking very softly, to no one in particular. None of it proof. All of it pattern. The kind of pattern Castabello's mind grabbed the way a hand grabs a banister in the dark. Because there has to be something to hold. He drove the last miles to Coffin Falls under a sky that had not decided what it wanted to be. On the surface, the town held itself together in the way small southern towns knew how. Church doors open on weekdays, a square of mowed grass around a statue nobody could name. A diner with a chalkboard that even the out-of-towners could read. It was the hour when deliveries disgorged boxes and the same 2 dogs crossed the street as if it were a shift they kept. Nothing cursed here on the face of it, just lives and corners and a sense that if a stranger asked questions, someone would bring him coffee before they brought him answers. The sheriff's office had brick older than its windows. Sheriff Melton met him in a shirt that had lost a fight with starch and a face that said he'd heard every theory twice. They shook hands like men who wanted the other to be competent. "You the Fed been making folks nervous from New York to here," Melton said. He didn't make it a question. "I'm the Fed who'd like to make fewer folks dead," Castabello said. "Conno Castabello." "Sheriff Aaron Melton." He gestured toward a glass door. "We've got your boy in a cell, Adam Raines." "My suspect," Castabello said. "Suspect's the good word for him." Melton started down the hall. "Doesn't talk much, doesn't fight, stands where you put him. That'll spook a town faster than a drunk. The corridor smelled faintly of mop water and old coffee. A radiator ticked like a nervous finger on a desk. The holding cells had that public building hum that makes the air feel electrical. Adam sat on the bench with his elbows on his knees, cuffs cinched too tight over pale wrists. He looked up because he knew when rooms changed. His eyes were dark in a way that wasn't colour so much as depth. "You know who I am," Castabello said. "You're the one who keeps catching up," Adam said. His voice was rough, like he hadn't spoken in the right way for a while. "You'll keep catching up. He likes it that way." Castabello said. "We'll get there." He pulled a chair across concrete. The scrape was loud for the size of the room. 13 homicides in 4 months, every scene quiet as a church, every body emptied, and you showing up near enough to hear the sirens. "I didn't touch them." Adam's jaw worked, then stilled. "I tried to stop him by being where he wanted me. That's the only plan I had that felt like a plan." "Who?" Castabello said again. Adam glanced toward the shadow stitched into the corner where wall met floor. "He has a lot of names. He picks one for the person he's speaking to, the one he wants them to fear." His mouth twisted. "He told me to call him something old." "What's the name he gave you?" Adam swallowed like the word was dry. "The Undead Terror." Melton shifted his weight against the metal doorframe the way men do when they'd prefer a different conversation. Castabello didn't flinch, didn't do him the courtesy of a reaction. There were words he did not use with sheriffs until he had to. Wounds precise, drained, nothing spilled. "Start with last night," he said. "Where you went and why." Adam told it in the way of someone who didn't trust language. The road past the dead mill, where the trees leaned in as if they were listening, street lamps dimming together in a communal sigh, fog that pressed from outside, and then seemed to press from the inside too. A thin film purling along the windshield. He talked about how the town, at night, didn't feel haunted so much as attentive. And then the voice, low, deliberate, speaking just behind the ear, without using air. "You can't drive away from me." "Did you try?" Castabello asked. "I ran lights nobody had run in 10 years, Adam said, attempting something like a smile and not getting there. "Then I did the worst thing." "What's that?" "I turned back." "Why?" "Because he wanted me to," Adam said simply, and in the space after, Castabello felt the first small chill walk his spine. A deputy stuck his head in the hall. "Sheriff, we've got an abandoned sedan out of Falls Road. Driver's door open, keys still in it, no sign of anybody." "Get your coat," Melton said to Castabello and to Adam. "We'll be back." Adam nodded. It was the nod of a man who had been left in rooms before. Falls Road made a tunnel of winter limbs. The fog worked the ditches like a patient animal. They found the sedan inclined toward the marshy shoulder, the driver's door yawning, keys swaying on a cheap lanyard. An empty to-go cup sat in the console, with the coffee ringed in oil on its surface. A phone lay cracked face down on the passenger seat. The air inside the car held cologne and something else, metallic, like a penny pressed against the back of the tongue. "Tracks," Melton said, crouching, his knee wetting dark. "Fast entries, heel digs." Then over the gully, the footprints stopped on the far side of the moss-slick bank. Not slid, not skidded. Stopped, like a sentence cut just before the verb. Behind them, a branch snapped, with a deliberation that did not belong to wind. Both men turned with their guns drawn, not because they believed in bullets at that moment, but because men believe in what they've been trained to do. The woods provided nothing to shoot. The air pressed closer, and then remembered itself and eased. "Don't like this," Melton said. "You shouldn't," Castabello said. They went back with less than they had come with. That is not unheard of in police work. It does not make it easier to accept. After midnight, the sheriff's office returned to itself the way a house does when only one lamp is on. Paper moved. A radio coughed and stopped. The coffee machine built a smell in the corner that was less coffee than insistence. Melton poured Castabello a cup and watched him suffer it. "Best you'll get in town," he said. "I believe you," Castabello said. You really think that boy did the 13? Melton asked. He wasn't picking a fight. He was asking for a place to stand. I think he's the only constant we have, Castabello said, and I think whoever is doing this enjoys being seen. He glanced at the hall to the cells. By him. Melton rubbed the bridge of his nose like a man negotiating terms with sleep. Had a call earlier from a woman on Ash Street. Said Adam was out back with a flashlight again, looking over his shoulder, muttering about being followed. He looked up. You ask me? That's fear, not malice. Fear can kill just as thoroughly, Castabello said. He didn't add, and sometimes it points. They were still a few words from deciding what kind of night this would be when the building changed. It wasn't a bang, not a crash. The safest description was that the air forgot its job. The fluorescent hum sagged a note lower. The radiator's tick quit mid-complaint. The hallway dimmed 2 shades without the bulbs participating. A weight settled on everything the way humidity does, except this weight was cold. From the direction of the cells came a whisper that wasn't carried by air. It wrote its way into the small place in the brain that registers your name. It said Adams. Melton put his cup down as if carefulness would matter. Castabello was already moving. Men who have lived too long with terrible moments learn to step into them before they grow teeth. The deputy stationed at the cells looked over his shoulder. His mouth formed a question he would not get to finish. On the far wall opposite Adam's cell, a vertical seam appeared. No crack in cinder block, no trick of light. The seam in the idea of the wall, as though 2 pieces of night had been stitched together there and someone had begun, gently, expertly, to unpick. It opened the way rot opens, patiently. Something stepped out. It was too tall where men are not tall. The arms were a shade too long, hands ending in elegant, wrong fingers tipped with dull, stained points. The skin wore the colour of paper left in damp, a boiled parchment pallor stretched thin over long bones. Lips like old leather fought a losing match with the length of the fangs beneath. The eyes sat back in their sockets and held a banked, unhealthy amber, like coals thinking about waking. When it moved, the room accommodated. Tile did not argue with it. Corners allowed passage. It didn't make sound. The sound in the building made space for it. Evening, it said in a voice pulled up from under stone. I am here for the boy. The deputy drew, because that is what deputies do. The creature covered the space between them in a single impossible step. One pale hand cut the deputy's face with a gentleness that turned indecent when the crack came. The body folded straight down, knees buckling last, a marionette kindly relieved of its strings. Melton fired twice from pure reality reflex. Castabello put a round into the creature's chest from the distance where academy scores count. The bullets hit and fell with the noise of coins landing on tile. Not a hole, not a flinch. The thing smiled. The expression required the wrong teeth and offered them. Adorable, it said. What followed had no good word, because the language of men assumes time. The creature reached the front room, and the room came apart. A desk chair disintegrated into flung metal and plastic. A glass pane surrendered with a sigh. A deputy pinned against the wall received a casual backhand across the throat, and the spray that followed painted the creature's cheek. It licked that stain with the idle curiosity of a man sampling a sauce. Castabello stepped because not stepping would have required a confession he wasn't ready to make. He brought the Glock up, knowing, and knowing didn't change his hands. The creature turned its head with the mild interest a man pays a stubborn fly. One hand extended and placed a palm on Castabello's chest. Pressure, not even violence, just decision. The wall agreed to hold him again for a moment. The floor caught him after. Stars swam, marketing themselves as a night sky. He tasted iron and old coffee. In the cell, Adam stood now. His hands wrapped the bar the way the drowning wrap a rope. The creature faced him as one might face an old companion at last arrived. The lock clicked with the indecent politeness of a servant clearing his throat. The bolt withdrew. The door eased open. The creature did not enter. He wanted the arrangement respected. You were faithful, it said, the words dragging damp out of the cinder block, You watched what I made. 13 nights, 13 lessons. What lesson? Adam asked, and the steadiness in his voice surprised everyone in the room, including himself. That fear has a shape, the creature said. The amber in the eyes warmed by a degree, and I am its architect. 2 deputies, late to the sound, arrived on a run and froze against the sight. They fired because everything in them demanded they try. Bullets found the creature and found the floor. He stepped aside, the way a careful man steps around a puddle, more courtesy than necessity, and reached them. One received a hand that closed around his head and decided for his neck. The other met the desk corner with a skull that would not argue later. The creature leaned close enough for Adam to smell what earth smells like when it is not above ground. The fangs were not the elegant sort the bad books choose. They were cruel tools meant to work. "You've been saying my name," Adam whispered. "In my head." "Because it belongs to me," the creature said. He bit. The sound was not a puncture, it was a tearing sound, wet and obscene, a bright unmaking. Adam's back arched so hard his shoulder blades kissed, hands slipping and falling open. The creature drank with an old animal's patience, long draws like a man savouring a story he had told 100 times. Castabello got up on the second try. His body felt borrowed and a size too small. He stumbled 2 steps and brought the pistol down as if he were breaking glass. The butt struck the creature's temple with a feel like hitting green wood. It blinked, annoyed, and put a hand to Castabello's throat. Bones made a sound a house makes when it settles. The world went a shade dimmer and tilted. The creature lifted him like weight in the wrong gym and set him aside. "You think you hunt me," it said in a voice meant to be between only 2 men. "No, little man, I brought you here." He let Adam go and walked into the lobby, where a bulletin board still offered a bake sale and the church supper. He dipped 2 fingers into the dark work on the tile and wrote in tall, jagged letters, with the care of a practiced hand. "The trail of terror continues. Tut." He tilted his head to admire the line the way a craftsman admires a faithful measurement. Then he looked back down the hall at Castabello, eyes finding him and pinning him like a butterfly to felt. "You will remember," he said, "if I let you." 2 fingers touched Castabello's forehead, as gently as a mother testing a fever. The dark came not as a blow but as evening, patient, inevitable, indifferent. He woke to the sound of water. The falls west of town kept their own hours and did not consult men. He lay on his side on a tile that had cooled and smoked lightly with the faint fog of evaporating blood. The clock above the duty desk said 3:43 a.m., as if it had done so all its life. The fluorescent hum had remembered its note. Nothing else had. Bodies lay where they had fallen, the human shapes of bad endings. Blood darkened into that colour that doesn't scare so much as insist. In the cell corridor, a bar bent inward and held that shape, a letter from the last 10 minutes. A coffee mug lay on its side, a fan of brown dried into hairline cracks, the small echo of a larger stain. Castabello rolled to his knees. The world took the opportunity to move sideways. He let it and waited it out. He got to the cell and found Adam, as if placed there by a tired hand. The boy's skin had the pallor of emptied things. His eyelids twitched, as if someone were negotiating from the other side. They opened like heavy doors. Gratitude moved through them and felt embarrassed. "Agent," Adam managed. "You alive," Castabello said. "For now." Sirens approached. Their sound bounced off the street and came in thinner than it had left. Boots would follow, then voices, then a story none of them wanted to hear, but all of them would tell, because it was the only one they had. Adam sat with effort and looked at the open cell door like a man looking at a cliff edge. "He wants me to run," he said. He wasn't pleading, he was citing a fact. He wants it to be simple. "It already is," Castabello said gently, and the truth tasted like pennies. In the world that existed yesterday, this scene fit too well. A young man in a bloody jail, deputies murdered, a federal agent concussed, case closed by dawn. Something clicked. Castabello hadn't touched the lock. Adam hadn't either. The bolts slid back as if obliged to good manners. The door eased wider without a hand. "Run," Castabello said. Adam didn't move. "He'll make it worse." "He already has." Castabello's voice surprised him by being kind. "We're out of good choices." Boots hammered the front steps. A flashlight bar cut white across the lobby floor. Sheriff Melton's voice yanked the building back toward order by force of habit. Men spread, hands out, eyes wide, telling themselves they were still inside the rules. The letters on the wall shone fresh under their light. The trail of terror continues. The message was signed to UT. Castabello stood. He discovered his Glock under a fallen chair, by accident or arrangement, and felt the dumb comfort of a tool in a world that had refused tools. He didn't remember when he started to breathe in time with the fools. "Tell me everything," he said to Adam, and meant the next hour and the last year. Adam nodded once. Voices filled the doorway. Melton stopped a step inside and took in the room without taking it in. The men behind him spoke in the bright, clipped ways people speak when they are trying to push meaning in front of themselves before it becomes them. Someone said, "Jesus." Someone else said, "Oh no." Someone swallowed hard. Castabello didn't turn toward them yet. He kept his eyes on Adam, on the open door, on the drip at the tail of the T in 2UT making a wavering comma toward the baseboard. He stored the way the letters looked. He would write them again later in his notebook to see if his hand shook in the same places. He thought of a call he hadn't returned yet, a message from Quantico, from a profiler he trusted exactly as far as his experience told him to. "Marsh is coming down if you don't object," the text had said. Fresh eyes. Behavioural. He hadn't answered. He would not object now. The case had walked out of eyes and into whatever came after. Outside, the sirens resolved into cars and then into men. Inside, the clock held to its minute like a stubborn child. The fools kept speaking as if this were only weather. Castabello did not believe in coincidence. He believed in patterns, and the pattern here had a boy at its centre, and an old thing at its edges, and a town that could still pretend, for a few hours at least, that it was like other towns. He put the leather notebook back in his coat. He stood where the hallway widened, and the lobby opened, and the open door waited. He tasted iron and bad coffee, and the particular metallic hope that comes when a man realizes he is not as alone as he thought, because if there is a plan, somewhere there can be a counter. The men with lights moved closer. The room grew bright without feeling safer. The sheriff's face did the math, and came up one more dead than he could afford. The day would come, because that was what days did. In Coffin Falls, habits had started to change, and somewhere between here and Junction Ridge, something very old smiled with all the wrong teeth.